Sydney Sweeney, popular for her role as Cassie in Euphoria, is known for her risque roles on screen, but fans would actually be surprised to hear that she wasn't always so brave. In fact, before auditioning for Euphoria, she was a little nervous about how her family would respond to it. Why was Sweeney afraid of her family's reaction? Why did she turn down the initial audition for Euphoria? First up, before Euphoria, Sweeney was no stranger to the acting world. She'd been part of some major productions, like The Handmaid's Tale and Sharp Objects. In fact, she was known for her portrayal of Eden in Handmaid's Tale. It was a brilliant depiction of a complex character, since Eden Blaine's character was initially hated by fans, but went through a reforming character arc. You know, the works. Next, we have her initial audition for Euphoria. With the last season, Cassie's character has fans divided. Should we sympathize with her or despise her? Still, we don't think she should just be dismissed as a pretty airhead, who also betrayed her best friend, but that's beside the point. But when Sydney Sweeney decided to audition for Euphoria, she was a little put off by the nudity that was expected in the show. At that time, the casting audition was aimed at the role of Maddie Perez. She left the preliminary audition because she was concerned about how her conservative family would react to her doing the role. Now for the second audition request. The creators of Euphoria, however, knew they wanted Sweeney on the show. We get it. She's a brilliant actor, even with her recent role in The Voyeurs. So the second audition dispatch they sent her was for the role of Cassie, and we sure as hell are glad that they did. Was Sydney still nervous about upsetting her family? Yes, but she took the leap this time and decided to audition for Cassie, giving us one of the most interesting characters on the show. In an interview with SBCT Journal, she mentioned that I'm from a small town, and I knew my family would have a hard time with my content in it. But when I read the pilot, I saw how powerful this show could be and the connection I felt with Cassie. So I put myself on tape and got it. And we're so glad she did, because Cassie wouldn't be the character she is without Sweeney playing her so brilliantly. And now, the whole family came to the premiere. Surprisingly, in spite of the reservations and fears she's had about how her family would respond to her role in the show, Sweeney was so ecstatic about this major role that she decided to invite the entire family to the premiere. She seemed to have forgotten about the adult content in the show, but was reminded during the premiere. She admitted that it was embarrassing to think about her grandparents sitting through scenes in which she was nude. Luckily, Sweeney's fears were misplaced because her grandparents actually had a pretty positive response to the nudity. They joked about her having the best tits in Hollywood. If that doesn't say supportive and cool grandparents, we don't know what does. Although we don't know if we'd be okay with hearing that phrase from ours. Maybe a little too cool. On to Sydney's supportive family. Sydney Sweeney's family has actually been supportive from the very beginning. Sweeney's family shifted from Washington to Los Angeles despite having no connections in Hollywood, just so they could support her desire to become an actress, which goes to show how much they care about her. Of course, it wasn't easy for them either, especially the first couple of years, since it takes some time for any actor to find a major role in Hollywood. In an interview, Sweeney mentioned that LA was way more expensive to live in. Plus, her odds of getting a good role were tough when there were so many other girls trying just as hard. Up next, nudity in Euphoria. Over time, Sweeney actually learned to negotiate with the show's creator on which scenes didn't really need nudity. By this time, she'd gotten comfortable with risque scenes. She mentioned that Sam Levinson, the director, was always receptive to her feedback and never forced her into a role she wasn't comfortable with. There's been a lot of twisting of Sweeney's willingness to do nudity on screen, with many wrongfully claiming that she disagreed with Levinson. In an interview, though, Sweeney was adamant about defending Levinson, clarifying that he was actually super respectful of boundaries. She also addressed the nudity itself, since it had become a major talking point when it came to Cassie's character. There's a purpose to what that character is going through. That's the character. We all get naked in real life. We show this character's life and what they're going through. Cassie's body is a different form of communication for her. We have to admire her willingness to embrace her character so fully. Sweeney definitely came a long way from her initial fear of nudity scenes, showing that she's unbothered by what people have to say about Cassie's character. She also acknowledged that her decision to be comfortable with with nudity on screen actually invites a lot of judgment from fans. We were so happy to see her fight back against the assumptions people make about her based on her character. So where did Sweeney get her courage from? Surprisingly, Sweeney's parents were the first to encourage her to stand up for herself. This helped her a lot in the acting industry, especially when actresses get pushed into roles that they don't like. However, thanks to her parents' backing, she was more willing to stand up for herself and negotiate which scenes she was comfortable with. Now we have rejections. It wasn't always this easy though. Sweeney definitely faced her fair share of rejections, particularly brutal ones too. In an interview with GQ, she mentioned that a casting director once told her that she'd never make it on TV because she was missing the right look for it. This is so ironic, since she's now one of the biggest TV stars of the modern era. Was she a late bloomer? The journey to Sydney Sweeney's success was a long one. As an aspiring actor from Washington with no experience in Hollywood, she could have easily faded into obscurity, and we'd never have gotten the complex and sometimes the frustrating character of Cassie. However, in spite of how much the rejection was hurtful and sometimes really difficult to handle, Sweeney still said that she's glad success came to her much later in life, when she's at a much more stable and secure place. In a detailed interview about herself and her character, she mentioned that people often take a lot out of context, and that can be extremely damaging. She shared that she chooses to stand up for herself whenever she can, but she isn't too concerned about how her words are distorted by others, because that sort of thing happens a lot. Instead, she chooses to withdraw after saying her piece, trusting that she's done her part in defending herself. Sweeney is actually a really private person who knows that the true goal of interviews is to get a scoop of her private life, but is unwilling to give it. For an actress who's constantly criticized for her risque roles, we were actually quite impressed with how she dealt with criticism and judgment from people just looking to bring her down. Sure, Cassie might not be 100% likable, but we sure as hell love Sweeney. Here's some other news you might have missed out on. Starting with Kim Kardashian and Pete Davidson's Tahiti vacation. The celebrity couple have been enjoying their time together since they first got together, but their recent trip to Tahiti in Kim's private jet drew a lot of attention. The couple seemed to be loving each other's company quite a lot on Brando Island, with Kim sharing snaps of the two on the beach, just cherishing each other's company by the water. Sorry Kanye, but that's actually kinda cute. We've got no choice but to be happy for the reality show star. Next, Amber Heard speaks up about social media during the trial. If we really look back at the smear campaign on social media, it was vicious against Heard. The trial was turned into one big joke, and in the post-trial tragic outcome, Heard finally spoke up about how unfair it was for her to be villainized like that. In an interview, she mentioned that even if people didn't side with her, they still couldn't say that she'd been treated fairly. And honestly, she's not wrong. It was disturbing how the trial was turned into a big joke, and Heard was portrayed as a conniving person. And finally, Ozzy Osbourne's major surgery. Once the lead vocalist of Black Sabbath, Osbourne has been battling Parkinson's for quite some time now. That's not all though. We sympathize with the singer's condition, since there are various other health problems that he's suffered as well. We're not sure what the upcoming surgery will be for, but we really hope it improves things for Osbourne, who seems like he's grown tired of the daily physical therapy, as he mentioned in an interview. That's a wrap for this video. What do you think of how Sydney has embraced her risque roles? Has she reclaimed the narrative? Leave a comment below and let us know what you think. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.